So James Harden is getting traded. I mean, honestly, this was a long time coming. Let's face it, no one expected James Harden to last more than 4 years in Philly because most people knew that it was going to be a championship or they were going to bust and they were going to try something new. As we know, the Philadelphia 76ers for the past years have just been insane. They started their journey of getting Joel Embiid a championship, and they did this by putting Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris around him, and a good group with a lot of depth. This was after they had rebuilt for so many years, and this caused them to create finally a solid group which looked like they could actually win something. When that happened, they chose to keep Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler because contractually one of them had to get a contract. So eventually, because of Jimmy Butler and his, really strong personality, they chose to go with Tobias Harris and traded Jimmy Butler to Miami. Ben Simmons was still there and playing at an All NBA level. Tobias was still good, but just doing what he does. And they tried to, move some pieces around to try to get Joel Embiid a championship, They got JJ Redick, and throughout the years, they've really just been keyed in on doing Joel Embiid justice as a superstar and getting him to stay. And he has. He can see that Philly is really trying to get him something, and that they're really trying to make him pleased. But recently now, we've reached the top of the iceberg. They managed to get James Harden in a fleece of a trade for Ben Simmons, right? And realistically, they've gone these past few years being one of the best teams in the league effortlessly just because of their two stars. The James Harden and Joel Embiid connection works. Their pick and rolls are, I think, the most effective of all time. And this season, James Harden led the league in assists. Meanwhile, Joel Embiid led the league in scoring. Now, even though that's all good, they can't win. And let's be honest about that. They just can't win. James Harden is a notorious playoff choker who's done it for his entire career except when he was a six-man, right? And as the main star on a team, he will have his phenomenal moments and sometimes he'll just be gone, right? But he's not the main star of this team, right? In these playoffs, he hit 2 game-winning shots, right, to put games away against Boston, a very tough competitor. And this year, they actually made a good stride by taking Boston to 7 games in the playoffs, which showed that, wow, this team is getting better and that they could actually compete for something. But that's what the stats say. That's what when you look at it from a bird's eye view. But when you really zoom into what's actually happening, you could see that it was just that Joel Embiid and James Harden are not built for the big moments. They're both chokers. They're both non-clutch. And even though they have their moments, when it comes time to seal a game, in every team, there needs to be one guy who can do that. That's why guys like Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, and guys like Steph Curry, and De'Aaron Fox, I could keep going, but guys like that who Damian Lillard, 90% of the times they get the ball in the end of the game, they're going to make the right play, even if it's not, the one that works, right? Like, they shoot a good shot or they make the right pass, and even if it doesn't win you the game, you need that guy to be able to step up and know what to do, be comfortable in that situation, and not make their blood boil when they have to go under that high-intensity situation. And this is what, propelled a team like the Heat to be so good. But as much as... But in summary, they don't work, right? They could get you to a finals, and I believe that, certainly. But I don't think that team could ever win the championship. I think that they miss players, and I think that they underutilize guys in the roster like Tyrese Maxey or PJ Tucker who only get to really shine when the two other stars who are both chokers don't, want to take the shots that matter. In my opinion, Philly was due for a change. Even though that connection looked very nice this year, the way that they got beat 50 in that final game, it was just disrespectful. And the fact that Philly forced 7 really didn't feel like it mattered after Jason Tatum did that. It really just felt like they had a great series. The first game, James Harden looked phenomenal. And I think it was game 6 or game 5 where he hit that game winner. And things looked phenomenal. But in those last 2 games, game 6 and game 7, game 6 where Jason Tatum scored 13 points in the final quarter, right, to close out the game when he hadn't scored, I think, for the entire game. And then in game 7 where he scored 50, really showed that there's a deficiency in Philly, and it showed every single one of their weaknesses of why just a better team, right, not even better coach, just a better team could beat them. All this has led to now James Harden opting into his $36.5 million player option, which he had, and him basically saying to Philly, him and Philly basically saying to each other, like, yo, we're going for a change. James Harden is going to be out of Philadelphia most probably. It just depends on what teams want him. It was said that the Clippers or, the Suns, it was even talked about that wanted to get him. But in my opinion, really what we're looking for here is what team can give enough of a push to the Sixers for them to feel happy with what they get back. They don't want just any regular player for James Harden. They're not starting a rebuild with this trade. But they definitely want to put a team around Joel Embiid that satisfies him enough for them to be able to look for a star in the future, right? Or maybe they want to get a star back. I know that the Clippers have shown interest, but the Clippers are probably not going to do anything because they would have to trade Paul George if it works out the way that I think it's going to work out, right? Or most teams in the league really, they want something, it's really been a trend where they want superstars for pennies because of what happened with Bradley Beal and Chris Paul. But in my opinion, really, the best team that works for James Harden, in the sense of that it gives him a team which he can actually do something with, and in exchange, the other team gets better, would be a team like Miami. I understand that Miami's not going to give up Jimmy Butler, and that having James Harden in Heat culture sounds like a nightmare, but having that veteran superstar playmaker who could give you 20 and 10 a game is something that Miami needs. And Miami has Jimmy Butler, which in the closeout games and when he's not injured as he got injured in the New York series very early on, right? And when he's not injured, when he's fully healthy and he actually is playing the game up to his standard, he is probably the best clutch performer we have in the league apart from Damian Lillard and LeBron James. And that's a tough thing to say without mentioning guys like Giannis or Jokic, but the guy is just that good. He dropped 56 points against the Bucks. He had that 35-point game with the game winner against Boston. He had that incredible mid-range shot to win the one game in Denver in the finals. And in my opinion, if James Harden gets sent to Miami, it will be his ideal option. Miami could actually get off of Tyler Hero, right? They could get a point guard who makes, scores 20 a game. And even if he freezes in the playoffs, James Harden, he will have a team which has so many good playoff performers around him that it will elevate him more than being in Philly right now. Now, will this happen? We don't know because we know that Miami just wants Dame and they want him. But Dame doesn't look like he's getting traded, right? Even though that he probably wants to. So in my opinion, if there's a team for James Harden right now, after Philly, it would probably be going to Miami. The only thing that I would be scared of is the parties that he would get into in Miami. So yeah.